Welcome everybody tonight. A really nice turnout. It's great to see everyone here. And we're really pleased to have Clif Kharroubi presenting today. And the topic for today's lecture is, "It is not as bad as it looks. The excitement for white and black in the boring Caro-Kann defense." So let's welcome Clif.
Again, thank you for coming, but I want to preface this with, I had to adjust the topic to just the advanced variation, which it's the most popular by a wide margin in the Caro-Kann. Okay, but taking on the whole Caro-Kann, I would have epically failed to cover all the material. I'm going to struggle tonight, so I'm going to do my best, but looking at it from two perspectives is going to be challenging. So, in any case, why don't we get started, because I do have a lot to cover, but feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions, signal me, Okay, so let's get started. The Caro-Kann, okay, there's some important basic ideas in the Caro advance, okay? When we play the move E5 as white, we have an advantage in space, okay? Now, if you're, an experienced E4 player, the likely structure to evolve in this position would be what opening? Does anybody know? No? Okay. Well, if we go back, E4, very common opening is E6, the French, and this is the French advanced variation pawn structure. So when we look at the Caro, a lot of times we're going to draw comparisons to, is this a benefit playing the structure of a French with the Caro move order, or is this worse than we would normally have? So in this position, if after D5, E5, black tries to play, we went this way. Okay, so if we get to this position and black immediately plays C5, okay, and we play C3 and black plays E6 and knight F3, why isn't this a French? Can anybody tell me? Or is it a French? TJ.
It's a French, but black lost a move.
Exactly. Because the pawn stopped on C6 before it challenged the white center on C5, we're down a move. So this would be extremely illogical for black to play in this way. Okay. So when he makes a move like C5 here, okay, white cannot just answer it with C3, right? Or white can answer it with C3, but black can't just play E6 here, okay? Now, right now, the big difference between the two positions would be a pawn where? E6, exactly, which would stop the development of the light squared bishop. Okay, so it's funny because even at very high levels, this isn't seen very often, because if, for instance, black played knight to C6 here, and white continued with knight to F3, what's the best move for black here? Any ideas?
Bishop G4.
Bishop G4. You can see this, and this is from the master database. All these grandmasters and FIDE masters and IMs found Bishop G4, which is actually a very bad move. Okay, but it's very logical. See, black is developing outside the pawn chain. Yeah. Okay, and now they're going to play E6 and not have the bishop trapped in. The problem is there's a tactical defect here that white has the ability to play DC. Okay. Now, usually taking away from the center, it's the type of move a lot of players miss. Okay, because it seems illogical. We're making our e5 pawn weaker. Okay, we can't put our knight on. Say, why are we doing all this? But for instance, one of the jokes in this position would be, what if you won't see this in the master database, but if you can see there's 3,200 players with black in the regular lead chess database who thought this was a good idea. Okay, they are not very happy once they find a reaction like this, though, because obviously if the queen is taken, somebody's going to be down a piece. So the whole point is that this whole concept with bishop g4 is bad and can't be played, but it's so common a mistake. It's almost, if you were white, you'd almost be tempted to do it. Okay, but black actually has the correct move in this position, is to exchange on d4. Now this seems very funny because in 80 or 90% of positions, when there's central tension, whoever releases the central tension loses something. Okay, in fact, when black does that, he frees the square c3 for the white knight, so you might think, oh, that's bad. But the whole concept of being able to develop the bishop to g4 now and pressure the center, okay, it's a very strong equalizer for black. Black's at least equal here. Probably just has the easier game. Okay, but it's funny that you have a bunch of masters and grandmasters, which you're going to see this throughout this course. They aren't aware sometimes of nuances in the moves. Okay, so even in the master database, there's a huge disparity. I mean, this shouldn't be played. Bishop g4 is just a bad move. 212,000 players in the lead chess database, and in the master database, there was still 46 out of 72, which is the majority, playing this bad move. So, I find things like this shocking, but it happens all the time. The other thing is, in this position, c3 is actually recommended by Anish Giri in his course. So if black has two choices when meeting the advanced variation. Black can either play bishop to f5, which solves the problem of the light squared bishop, or he can play c5, attacking the center right away, even though it's a move slow, because it went c6, c5. He hopes that he's going to be able to develop his light squared bishop in some meaningful way. Okay. Now, in this position, I'm going to. Well, okay, I don't want to. There's multiple ways for white to play here that before this I thought black could deal with, but after looking at all the ways white can deal with this, I'm not very comfortable with this c5 idea. The most common move for a long time was dc, and black would play. Well, first black would play knight c6. Okay, but after Wesley So's course and a lot of other people recommended this, they said white should just play f4, because now it's very hard for black to organize a lot of pressure, and we're a lot faster with our kingside attack against black's position. So this kind of discouraged people from playing this knight c6 move. Okay, so they would want to play, after takes, e6. And this was thought to be, just kind of a clear equalizer. In fact, Hikaru had a famous win against Topalov in this position. There's a lot of ways this can be dealt with. I like a3, and I actually like this for both sides. Wesley So recommends queen g4 here because the bishop is developed. He's targeting this. Now, I don't think this is a big deal because black can just play knight to e7, and white doesn't gain anything by taking this necessarily. especially after knight g6. Okay, the queen is misplaced, black's pieces are coming out very fast, and the pawn on e5 looks a little weak. And, you know, look at all white's pieces, they're just, you know, sitting there. And very, very quickly, white can be under a lot of pressure.
Earlier when you said about the f4 move, I've heard that that's generally not something that you really want to do.
Okay, no, that's very, and okay, moving your f pawn is usually one of two things. It's usually very good or very bad. Okay, it's a very committal move. Okay, and in this case, because of the fact there's not going to be that tension in the center, and black doesn't have a very fast way to get his pieces out, it's very effective. Okay, I think if we look at, if you look at the results in the master database, 59% win rate for white, 27% draw, 14 for black. That's pretty abysmal. Okay, and even when you talk about real normal people, after f4, it's pretty good, but it's not as good as you would think. They really kind of had to mishandle that for it to be like that. But if we adjust this and have it only over 2200, there we go. Now it's still only 54%. I'm a little disappointed, but in any case, it's thought to be very good, the f4 idea. So a lot of people don't play this knight c6 because of that. But there's a player that made a course on Chessable. He's an IM named Alex Banzia, and he recommends this knight c6 move after dc. Okay, so so wait, let me go back. Oh, here we go. Yeah, but in his course, if white plays knight to c3, okay, he gives knight to c6. Now, judging from the last time we looked at a position very much like this, what might be the flaw in knight to c6 that white could exploit here?
Bishop b5.
Bishop b5. Okay, so in this position, I would say these are the type of moves that kind of help white out if they don't almost win something. Because this piece is a great piece for white, okay, because we've got our pawn stuck on dark squares, okay, and the light squared bishop is very important in terms of attacking black and holding the weaknesses that aren't covered by the pawns. So if it's not almost winning material, it's positionally, you know, not helpful. So the move that makes a lot of sense, though, is dc. The point is, obviously, we look at this position, right, bishop g4. Okay, I mean, we could get a full transposition by playing c3 here. Right? This is kind of a losing line, let's say, for black. At least it's much worse for him, let's put it that way. I mean, it could continue something like this, and this. And remember, he couldn't play knight takes e5 because there's knight takes knight before. So, remember we looked at this. This was very unpleasant for him. Now bishop e5 is just going to win some. So, yeah. So if e6, which looks more reasonable, okay, we could just play b4 or bishop e3. Either one of these should be enough for an advantage.
So, I was thinking knight takes e5.
Knight takes.
Why? Because the king can.
You got a bishop hanging.
Then we can make the
Oh yeah, no, not here, not here. Okay, so wait a minute. If we did it here, if we did this, yeah, we've got queen check. Sorry. Yeah, here there's queen check, and the knight has to go back because the queen can't block. Because I think there's bishop e5. So the knight drops back, and now knight to e5. And we've already got 2 pieces on it. We're ready to have the bishop here. This looks like it's probably going to be too many pieces attacking black.
Let's say the king would not be stuck in the sun.
Well, yeah, and there's a piece hanging here too. So like if you guard the piece on d7, okay, here, then bishop g5 threatens the bishop and threatens to take on d7, I think. Yeah. There you go. So in any case, it's tactically losing for black a lot of these lines. And actually, the computer said that after this, the best move wasn't even b4; it's the developing move, bishop e3. So that may be even better. But yeah, I think white's just going to consolidate their extra stuff. And black's pieces. Now, in the Caro, let me mention this because I meant to cover this initially, and I got kind of distracted. In the Caro, there's a theme that the square e7 is the problem. Okay, so in this position, if all things were equal, having the bishop developed outside the pawn chain, okay, and if black wasn't down any material, this might be like more than equal for black because he's got a favorable version of the French. But in these positions, there's always a struggle to get his pieces past this e7 square because so many pieces require the use of the e7. It's the retreat square for this knight. The queen has to come out this way. It blocks the queen in if you put something on e7. If you put the bishop, for instance, then you're forced to maybe put your knight over on h6, which might be subject to being taken and your whole pawn structure being wrecked at a given point. If you put the knight on e7, now how does the bishop get out? It's just a constant struggle. Black, in many cases, yes.
What would you do in these sort of positions, black is playing with the bishop, say on the square in front of the queen? Like
If the light squared bishop
was in front of the queen.
was here,
Yeah.
okay, then it would be a worse position because we'd still be down a pawn, we'd still be clogged up, and we'd still have a bishop which wasn't solved. Because on d7 it actually stops the queen from, let's say, controlling the d5 square. It's supposed to be improved, let's say, when the bishop's on g4 versus d7.
No, like how would the same attack go off if the bishop was on that square with the queen, the knight, and the bishop coming in? Could you show us?
Okay. You wouldn't play that exact attack. Why would you play against the strength? It's like Sun Tzu, the art of war. You want to attack where your enemy's weak. If he's got bishop on d7, I'm not trying to pin stuff. Okay. That a pinning when you've already broken the pin seems. What do I want to give up the light squared bishop? No, I never want to give up the light squared bishop for like your light squared bishop. In fact, there's a lot of tricks even. If the bishop's on d7 and somebody tries to pin, there's knight takes e5 themes because the bishop's loose, and if you exchange the bishop, the knight moves back and just recovers, and you're just down a central pawn. Right? So in general, when a bishop's on d7, bishop b5, especially in French Caro structures like this, is like off limits. That you don't want to do. TJ.
How come e7 isn't as big of a problem in the French?
Okay. The reason it isn't is, well, for one thing, it's a good question. Well, okay, so in the winnower, you have, okay, so let's answer the question. This isn't the easiest question, but it's okay, TJ. I like hard questions too. All right. So here we go. Now, first off, if we play like this, in many cases, the knight coming to h6, we don't care if it's exchanged. Taking the bishops and having the owning the dark squares is even more important for one thing.
Kids always play F6 too in French. It's like a camel game, F6, black.
Well, yeah, but, still, if white isn't cooperative in taking it, you see what I'm saying, then, it could be a problem. But, there's other ways. The other thing is, in let's say, some of the main lines, like, knight here, we're immediately exchanging off one of the pieces that need that square. And all the pressure is going to come, after white, let's say, plays something like this, the knight on b8 isn't coming to d7 ever. It wants to come to c6. And we've already gotten rid of the bishop that needs it. So, and the queen is going to be happy on like c7 or a5, even b6 sometimes in this structure. So it's not quite as bad an issue in the French. I mean, you still suffer from a lack of space in the French. That's a common reoccurring thing. But the Caro, you're solving your light squared bishop, but you're suffering more with your dark squared pieces in a way. So now, okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Could you go back to the position where in the Caro e7 is a problem?
Okay, so here we go. Yeah, I mean, this would be a perfect example of e7 being a problem. Okay. So now, black can't even...
This is a different position.
Right. Oh, no, but I mean, this is another position. So you want that exact position. Okay, just a sec.
Where you play,
one sec.
where you play e6.
Yeah, I got to remember the variation I was playing at that point. Oh, no, I was looking at, at c5 here. Okay, so c5, now, Geary, I was actually explaining Geary's recommendation is to go like this, and then not play knight to f3, which allows the pin, which you could allow and hope they play bishop g4 and you get a winning position, but black may know to equalize easily after cd. Remember, like if we had played this and they play cd, cd, and then play bishop g4, this is fine. Okay, but back here, okay, we could just play bishop e2 and not allow that. So then the black would have to play like this. Then we could play knight to f3. Okay, and now here we have some of that struggle you were talking about, right?
Yeah, I think in the previous position the bishop was pinning that knight on f3.
Yeah, that was just one position. You want that exact position?
It's fine. We can continue.
Okay. Okay. So in this dynamic play, black is choosing either to give up time and try to attack d4 as quick as possible by playing the immediate c5, or develop his light squared bishop as soon as possible. Now, when you understand this, then you can avoid the type of mistake that I made. I actually drew this game. After getting a winning game, this was in a New York State tournament. I'm going to take this back. And yeah, so this was played. No, I did not play that. I played knight to f3. This is called the short variation. Okay, and my coach at the time afterwards scolded me because he said, how could white possibly hope for an advantage when black gets to solve the problem of his light squared bishop and you have basically a French pawn structure? Okay, the one tempo that black loses playing c6, c5 can't possibly offset the fact that black has very comfortably developed light squared bishop. Okay, so the argument that the player, the short variation, it was named after Nigel Short, he made was that if they played c5 like this, well, in the game, my opponent played knight d7, that castled, and he played c5, which is already a mistake. And like many players that I see, young me didn't realize why this was a mistake. Okay, can anybody tell me what is black behind in this position? Development or time, right? So we have a black player who is opening the center, okay, and he's behind in development. So the correct move, probably everyone could imagine now that we've highlighted it that way, what's the correct move for white?
Bishop e3.
Okay, now bishop e3 is not a bad move. I think that's what I played actually. Okay, so I don't think too badly of that move. It did pretty well, but it's not as, you know, it doesn't exploit the mistake as well. You'll notice in the database down here, you know, this is like 20 years ago or more. I didn't have access to this database back then. But c4 really highlights the situation. The point is we're really putting pressure on the black center. We're really trying to open it up because black's behind in development. And you can see the computer evaluations already saying white is really, you know, has a nice advantage here. Okay. So in the game, I didn't find that move, but I did understand I should be developing and take advantage of my time. So I played bishop to e3. My opponent played the best move. He was actually over 2250 FIDE, which that's you know, that means he's probably almost 2400 US. Yeah, that's a pretty you know, high rated player when you have, you know, that kind of FIDE rating. So in any case, in fact, I looked. He beat. I don't know. Does anybody know the Grandmaster Robert Hess? Yeah.
And the counter at the World Chess Championship.
Right. Well, when he was young and upcoming, you know, he was like 2150 FIDE or something in the New York State tournament. Robert Hess beat him. I mean, not Robert Hess. The player that this game is against beat him. So, in any case, I played very poorly, and my coach let me know about this. How could I play c3? Because now we just have the regular French structure, and I didn't go for breaking things open, which I should have. Okay, but you'll notice the black pieces have had to do this. You know, knight e7, knight c6. They're still suffering with a certain amount of time and harmony that they're working out. Okay, and in the game, I'm trying to get all my pieces out. And does anybody know how I captured here? Because it's kind of a theme in this Caro. Knight takes, yeah. See, we're going to threaten to hit the bishop on f5, which is not the most comfortable thing for black, because they don't want their position to be split with pawns on f5 and d5, and their king possibly.
It's showing us all the SMS stuff right
Okay. So, in any case, in the game he played this move, which was a big mistake, because of the fact black always has to watch out for the light squares on the queen side when he's developed the bishop to f5. This is one of the dangers. And in this position, he kind of gets away with it, but this is very precarious for him and probably not very good. Okay. Now he highlights it by moving his f pawn, which generally you don't want to move your f pawn in front of your king when you're behind in time and your king's in the center. It's almost certainly going to be worse for you, even though it doesn't always turn out that way. But in any case, in this position, I played an incorrect move, but not a terrible move, because I'm setting up the idea of g4 and f5. Okay, and in the game, that's exactly what happened. And I'm just going to go through this until just because I like this position. It's a fond memory. You know, not too often. You know, the guy's USCF was something like 2350 or something. So I was.
Quick question back there.
Sure.
When he played knight takes knight, what was wrong with playing knight takes pawn? The pawn that was hanging on e5. Like, why is it so bad to let the exchange on a 5 happen if you're winning a pawn? If you played like knight D takes,
Okay. Oh, you're saying you want
yeah, grab the free pawn. Yeah.
this instead.
Yeah.
Okay, and remember when I talked about having split pawns and an open e-file towards your uncastled king and all? That this structurally it looks suspect, and in terms of time and dynamism, it kind of makes you wince right away.
Okay.
I mean, I know some guys would really like to attack people if they played like this. They like to attack people anyway, but in any case, so, all right, so let's go back. Okay, so here we go. I want to get to this final position. Okay. Now, this is very instructional. Okay, this is a terrible move on my part. I played Queen D2. What is wrong with Queen D2? Now, this is, me back then might have calculated a little better, but boy, I was stupid in some ways. Okay, what am I just totally ignoring? Why is Queen D2 terrible? Okay, I mean, it's an isolated pawn, but I have a pawn in front of it, so it's like, I appreciate what you're saying, and you're kind of in the area. Does anybody understand color complexes? Okay, see, Queen D2 is like I'm tone deaf to the situation. What bishop is he missing?
White square.
Right, so why am I putting my queen and making a dark squared battery? Duh. No, it's just, it's, I don't need to calculate now. I would know that's probably the wrong idea. Okay, now I have the advantage of the computer. Oh, step on the light squares, which are much harder to defend. Oh, geez, magic. Oh, geez, I'm just probably better now. So, no, but Queen D2 probably threw away the advantage. Sorry. Yeah, so in the end, I got lucky magically. I accidentally found a tactic, and I won as queen, and I should be winning here, but in fact, my good friend Isai Guliak showed me afterwards, oh, you could have just went here, and won, and I did miss the win, and he ended up drawing this position in a minor piece. He had like knight and rook against the queen, which changed the bishops. And I don't even know in the end whether I was still winning or not, but in any case. The point is, though, a lot of the themes remain the same. And, okay, I better go quick, too, because I've got a lot more material to cover. Okay, so let's point out here. Okay, so this is the more mainline bishop f5. Oh, I still forgot to show you, if he plays this, oh, I'm sorry, knight f3 is my suggestion here, because in the course, Alex Banzia just says, oh, you play knight to c6 here, hoping that white's just going to cooperate and play c3. But he doesn't have to play c3. He can just play dc and have an advantage. Okay? This is just better for white. Okay, so what he's suggesting is incorrect. So the way this has to be played here, it's kind of a forced line. And I think I remember years ago there was a player named Alexander Yermolinsky, and he was very unhappy with his Caro-Kann because of the fact that all these advanced variation lines look good for white, he thought. And what he, I believe, was worried about, if I remember, is a long time ago, it's like the 80s, okay, was something like this. And, I mean, here, black doesn't have a better move than e6, and it certainly feels that after moves like just, knight c3, bishop d3, castles, it feels rather comfortable, for white. Like white just has the better of the situation. And I think this bothered him, this position, and the person who wrote the course for Chessable didn't even take this into consideration because they were thinking you're just going to transpose when you're not. You're never going to get to transpose. You only get either a bad line or a worse line. So, I don't know. I wasn't happy with this. So, to me, I don't want to play this c5 move because white has the choice that Nishigiri puts of just transposing to the short variation with, no real benefit for black over the main line, and he didn't really achieve much. Black's still going to be struggling with too many pieces for e7, and he has to watch out that this bishop doesn't get hit with like a knight h4 at some point where you win the light squared bishop, which can be very unpleasant too. So I'm not comfortable for black recommending this c5 anymore. I thought it was kind of like an easy equalizer, but the lines I was looking at, I don't think are the best lines for white. What I showed you, knight f3 here, I think is just very strong for white. So if black plays in the more principled way, I think, bishop f5, and more popular, okay, now there's a variety of ways white can play. And I'm going to show you what I think one of the most forcing, most interesting ways for white to attack the Caro. And it's quite hard, actually, for black to equalize here. Okay, and it's with g4 here. And it's funny, because long ago, I faced Isai Guliak, and I played the Caro, and we reached this position, and man, I felt like resigning. I just thought I was getting destroyed here. I didn't know how this could possibly work out okay for me. I believe the first time I played him, I played this move, and I don't even think he played it the best. I think he played h4, okay? And then black's actually okay after h5, because he can't generate the same kind of pressure. But bishop g6 is a mistake, and it's really, I think, exploited by knight to e2 here. Okay, the point being that black has to pretty much play e6 here. Okay, but once he plays e6, there's going to be knight to f4, and we're just going to have h4, h5 coming. So in order to fight back, black's supposed to have this amazing trick with bishop to e4, hit the rook, provoking f3, and having queen to h4. Now, here's the really crazy part here is after king e2, it says equal, but I don't think this is equal at all. Okay, I think black is going to really have to find some moves that are just going to be lost. Just for the sake of interest, if we shut off the engine for a second, if we try to find a move for black, it's really hard. For instance, maybe the best looking try is something like h5, right? Anybody see anything better than that, or no? Okay.
What's wrong with moving the bishop back to g6?
Okay. So if the bishop goes back to g6, okay, we're going to play things like bishop e3, bishop f2. Well, actually, wait a minute. Bishop f3. He's got to retreat the queen now, right? And then h4, h5 just looks pretty unpleasant. I could put the engine back if you want, the real answer, Stockfish, she's 3,300. So if you played c5 here, there's c3, knight c6, and knight to d2, we just keep developing. Wow. a6, h3. Yeah, and there's this whole thing. At any point, this queen can get kicked, and then the h-pawn goes, I think.
Your king is safe because white's center is so strong?
Yeah, and black's pieces, first off, aren't, able to penetrate, really, other than the queen. It can't attack on its own, really. But, see, here's the thing. The supposedly the best shot, this see-through. So wait.
Before
Oh,
bishop
this is,
E6.
right, okay, yeah, you already made that move. H5 here is the best move. Okay, leaving the bishop on pre. And white's best isn't even to take it, which is crazy. Okay, and now the bishop, though, gets to drop all the way back to H7, right? But now white has a nice advantage. G5 is a secret move. I don't think black can be happy at all with this. Yeah, this is extremely.
Good question. Something that I've learned from experience is one of those bishops in front of the rook. Like, oftentimes you don't see those, and they just seem to pop out of nowhere.
Yeah, but see, the standard sacks in this position are usually on E6 or G6, and G6 is looking very interesting.
So it's the point of moving the pawn up one more time so that if the queen takes, you can take the d pawn on
Well,
black
it's
side.
blocking the queen from actually leaving. Okay, if the queen tries to grab, we're
Yeah.
grabbing really important squares, right?
That was my idea. And that queen in 7 was my idea too.
Yeah, but even once you save the queen, though, you may not be that happy with your game. Even though this king looks funny, he seems actually much more safe than the king on E8. So, no, I really like this line. It's very forcing, doesn't give, and it's actually very likely that black could miscue, because, well, here's the thing. The funny thing is that after you play here, the real move isn't bishop to G6. The real move is bishop to E4. Okay? And then when you play F3, then the bishop drops back to G6. But here, there's this E6 sap, which is very thematic, because all these pieces become a little funny after this, because the pawn on E7 is kind of burying all the activity of the black pieces. So this is a very rough sack. Now, it's funny because if you play it the other way, okay, if we play here and now sack, okay, black has the option of playing queen D6, if I'm not mistaken. No. Wait a minute, I'm mixing. See, this is the thing. You can mix this so easily, and that's why I think that, oh wait, it was like this. If this, now there's, no, sorry. I'm trying to remember this. Okay, so if we played this, H4, yeah. See, H4 is actually more common. This is a new idea to play E6 right away, which actually changes things quite a bit because of the fact that after H5, we can play, if we play E6 here, the best move is queen D6. This is like the refutation of white's play. Black defends this and everything's fine. That's why it's so confusing. Okay, see, in the new move order, what we're doing is we're playing this before H4, and now if black misremembers his preparation, which I just showed you can happen very easily, okay, now this is bad because white has E takes F7, okay, and after this, we're going to really have an impressive bind on the position. Very hard. Even though, objectively it's very close to equal, but it's kind of like one of those real thankless positions where you're going to have less space, less mobility, less dynamism, and you're going to have to suffer. Okay? I mean,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
After G4, Wouldn't it be just more practical for black just to
Play bishop d7?
and then the French?
No. That's one of the best parts of this. Okay, so I was going to recommend that as black's option because I just think it's so much more practical.
Yeah, and then
Then-
white your pawn on g4.
Right. Oh no, I was with you, but I'm not sure actually. After I did the work, that bishop d7 equalizes here, which I thought a non-crush sure of in this position.
Yeah.
You're familiar with that game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what he's referring to in this position. Okay, if for instance white does something like you see most people, what are they playing? F4 here? Okay, that's a terrible move. Now all of a sudden black's play comes so fast, this is all loose. It's kind of like why did white just shove his pawns? They're not hitting anything. Okay, and in fact sometimes h5 is a nice way to poke at it. So it's kind of silly. But, and if he plays, what was it, the other move, wait a minute, go back. Oh, wait a minute, so c5, sorry. Yeah, if f4, just c5. If h4, then c5 still, yeah, I guess that still works. But this is like terrible for white structurally. I mean, you know, he's got very easy ways to you know, get in trouble. Black is by far for choice here. Black's going to play e6, not care that his bishop isn't developed, but say these pawns, why are they pushed forward for no reason just to make weaknesses? Okay, so what is critical though is not either of these moves, not c4. The critical idea is bishop to e3, trying to develop, okay, and then if black plays the best move, I think is e6, okay, a3 is kind of like an amazing move here, because what does black have besides, you know, attacking the center? But we're just going to take, and let's say he builds up on it, we're going to consolidate, and there is no queen takes e5, okay, because of knight f3. Okay, this is the point. You can't do this because you're going to be embarrassed with yourself. Okay. So it's kind of funny. Black just doesn't kind of have time to poke at white's extension. In fact, the best move here is this, but after c4, this is the pressure on black center is real and it's fast. I kind of like this position for white. I don't think black is equalizing here. I think it's very, very comfortable for white. I didn't find any glitch in the armor here where I'm going to.
How important is castling this for white?
Okay, these are positions where, you know, it's very based on concrete calculation. But what I'm going to say is, when I've got all these pieces on their starting squares, and white's pieces have this kind of scope, you say, if this bishop comes to g2, look at this diagonal, wow. You know, look at the pressure right away. It's on the d5 pawn immediately. He can't like even consider taking this.
Here's the bishop.
Right? This is just terrible, right? Okay, so I mean, there's so many questions black has to, you know, answer. I mean, the computer's saying the best move is d4, and I don't think most humans would find even d4. Oh, I'm just giving up a pawn too? No, I mean, you know, there's already an armada of pawns over here. It doesn't seem like I want to give one up right away. Okay, but I don't think this is an amazing position for black either. So.
I think you had a question from David.
Oh, sorry.
I forgot it.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so no, I think this is a very testing way to play. More so than, see, I mean, for instance, what I had looked at previously, I thought if they played, let's say, the short variation, there's a line Pavel Alyanov recommended for black that went like this, with A5. Now, the point of A5, okay, isn't immediately obvious, but if you play as black F6 right away, then white has, I had all this, I thought, analyzed, just a second. Maybe I'm in the wrong chapter. No, that's not it. Sorry. No. Chapter 2. Yes. Okay, here we go. Okay, so castles, A5. So if, for instance, black played F6 right away, looks like he's creating, tension against the center. Okay, that looks reasonable. This is actually a big mistake because of C4 takes. Now, it looks like for a minute black might be okay, but after takes and knight to C3, this is kind of uncomfortable, because when he loses that bishop, the dark squared bishop, this really, there's a lot of pressure on black's position. This isn't so happy. White has a nice advantage here. Okay, so that's why they came up with this idea to include the moves A5, which white's best is probably to play A4 to stop that pawn from proceeding forward, or that space gives black more options in terms of fighting against white. It's actually very interesting still, but the standard response is A4, and now F6 works because if white tries the same method of play, it doesn't work because there isn't knight C3, knight A4, because there's a pawn on A4 basically. So now black has semi-open F-file, he's got a strong center, he's pressure against the E pawn, his bishop on A7 looks kind of dynamic, putting pressure down, pinning the F pawn, or possibly could swing to pressurizing the E5 pawn. There's a lot of choices here. So, the computer says the best move is bishop G5. I guess some people have played that even. But, yeah, I even looked at that. After bishop H4, that's a mistake. He should maintain the bishop, but I don't think, if black just castles here, I don't think he has any major issues. I think this is pretty strong for black. Okay, so I haven't covered everything I want to, but I don't want to leave you guys without any questions, because I threw so much material at you. So is there any particular things that I can clarify on?
So when the opening line starts, why don't they exchange the pawns immediately?
Here?
Yeah.
Okay, it's just a different line. In chess in general, when you release tension, it's thought you give your opponent something. Okay, in this case, the only thing you're really giving is you're giving black the C6 square for his knight, which, that's positive. And he's going to have one more central pawn long term. So, it's a small price. You do have very free development. Both your bishops are in play. But it's never thought that this was, nobody's going to stop playing the Caro because of this. Alexander Yermolinsky, who the Caro was his #1 weapon, okay, said, I can't play it right now because I don't think it works against E5. And everyone's playing E5 right now, and I'm not happy. Okay, this was a thing he did on the ICC, I want to say in the 1980s, he was literally, such a strong player. He actually helped revolutionize chess in this country. Players like Yermolinsky, Ginjastavili, Golko, they all came from Russia, which, you know, they had like a 50-to-1 ratio in grandmasters, them to us. They were light years ahead of us in chess, and players like that helped, you know, even the score a little bit. So, no, he was really a strong chess player with very strong ideas. And when he says, "Oh, I'm going to have to veer from my beloved Caro and play Sicilians," it wasn't done lightly. It's because he really felt the pressure that it wasn't working. And it's funny because before this, I would have said the Caro is easy to. And here's the thing: a lot of these lines I've shown you, nobody plays them right. They don't exploit the mistakes. Even, you know, titled players don't understand, I think, some of the move orders and things that they just allow to happen. I mean, the guy set up a whole repertoire based on a move order that's bankrupt. It doesn't work. Okay, so I don't know. It's very odd to me.
Well, I did realize that. Well, a few days ago, we were watching this video on Caro Nakamura. He said that he liked the exchange variation better because he could place his bishop on the f4 over there and make it look like it was some sort of Italian game.
Well, it's actually, in a lot of those positions, it's a full transposition to the London system. So,
Yeah.
for some players, that's a deal breaker right there, and we're not doing that. But, you know, nobody says, "Oh no, the London system, I have to resign," or something. You know, it's not. It's just not like that. That's not the London system. So, you know, nobody's crouching in fear, London position. But they can win games. And in this position, there is implied positional threat. And it's funny because when you play a move like Bishop D3 here, and then you're going to play Bishop F4, you're still asking Black, how are you going to develop your light squared bishop? You know, you play something like this, and now this, and, you know, if you play, for instance, Bishop G4, then you set yourself up for the counterattack on the light squares over here, right? And I believe we're already at a position that could have come from a London or Caro. Okay, this position is in both openings. I'm pretty sure. But in any case, the point is that White isn't developing the knight prematurely to F3 to allow an effective pin on it with Bishop. And in fact, if oh wait, let's see, he covers this, let's say, and now White, you'll notice, still plays knight to D2 because they don't want to put the knight on F3, which would make the bishop worthwhile here. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not nearly, I think, as violent an approach as the positions I've been showing you with E5. It's much more committal, and people, you saw kings walking all over the place. I mean, it's a whole different world. And especially if you're well prepared. Like in the line that I showed you, I would say people will not be fully prepared for a line like this because it's not the first response. You see this on Lee Chess, and this is, okay, wait, let's be more democratic because I've got it set for only 2200 because I just figured players lower than that, I'll figure something out. But so 2018, let's go all the way down to 1200, okay? So even in this, do you see G4 anywhere on here? No, so that's not going to be what they spend their life preparing for, and I've already shown you it's so diabolical, and you can easily miss a move order or something and just be destroyed in this. What's the most common move? This is a bad move. Right? We established that, right? You can't just go and retreat right away. You have to provoke with bishop to E4, or try the old, they call it the old, bishop D7 because they think it's more suspect now.
I'm getting, like, on balance, I have that impression from what you've been showing us that this is very good for White.
Yeah,
But
it's funny, I started this and I thought, oh geez, anything White has, Black's going to have good practical answers to, more than one. okay? And as I'm doing the work, I'm going, well, wait a minute, this stuff all looks good for white. I'm not sure if I'm happy with black in a lot of this. And like, I'm looking for things, and no, that's not working, I'm going, Jesus, well, I've got to recommend this for white. I can't be disingenuous. I mean, I even thought maybe I should just call in sick, and then I could just play this against white, as white against everyone who plays the Caro, and have them not see it coming even, But, no, I figured I'd probably still show up and tell you guys about it. Any other questions? Mike, Dave. Mike, sorry.
So, this looks like a much more exciting fighting game than not the exchange. So, like with the French, you have the exchange variation, and this we saw the exchange. So, is the exchange like dry here like it is in the French?
Okay.
More boring?
I wouldn't call it that just because you never know. Even in the French exchange, which is more boring than the Caro exchange, because in the Caro, what did I say? You're giving up the c6 square, and you're giving more central pawns. In the French exchange, it's just symmetry, straight. The only thing white gives black in the exchange French, okay, is he allows him to develop his light squared bishop outside that because there's no pawn on e6 anymore. Okay, but here's the thing: there was a little-known player at the state championship, and he was playing an IM. His name was Lev Pasterkowski, and was basically won by move 8 in the exchange variation. So it's not as insipid as everyone, you might think. So, any other?
I think the short variation, because I play the Caro,
Right.
I think that's by far the hardest to play against in black. Especially, I made the mistake, I played M50 East, I played that C5 with the knight on E7, I just got crushed.
Well, you saw the line. You saw the line that I showed you.
Yeah.
Okay, with A5, Pavel's idea.
Yeah.
It's been very popular, and I think it's very solid. Okay, it's also more dynamic than a lot of lines. And if you look in practice, okay, so if we go back, okay, so bishop F5, knight F3, E6. Bishop E2, knight D7, castles. Okay, where do you see A5 on here? Master games 247 out of 4,300. So the masters aren't really prepping for it because it's an aberration. And let's see for the regular people. Where's A5? Jeez, I don't even see it on the list. So unless you're playing some kind of, masters, FIDE, masters, IM, it's not even on their, to-do list. They've never heard of this line. And this idea, A5 followed by F6, is very, potent. You saw all your pieces get good squares. I mean, what more can you ask for as black? Okay, but let's not leave it there. There's a line that is recommended. Do you know who Alexei Dreyev is?
I never did, no.
Okay, so he is probably in history the greatest proponent of the Caro-Slav pawn structure. He played the Caro-Kann and the Slav defense at the highest levels, and he's probably written, he probably has 15 different courses just on modern chess. Okay, but very, very well thought of player, very high level. Okay, and he recommended to play, I believe, H6 here. He thought H6 was a very dynamic way to play, figuring that we're going to meet things like this. Let's see, knight to D2, I think is the main move. I want to say it was knight E7. Knight E7, knight to B3, because it stops C5, and now G5. This is the line. Okay, and objectively, this may be, you know what I mean, something that white can prove an advantage. But first off, it's a very small number of games compared to the whole short variation. Okay, it's a relatively new idea he's recommending, and I mean, anytime you have these pawns close to the king, I mean, things happen. I mean, there's all those variations that are based on that. who's the Richard Rapport, he loves this H6 G5. He does that at a moment's notice. He doesn't care. Okay. Oh, any position it's never been played, and I get to play H6 G5. Let's go. Okay. So no, I think something like this, if you're playing all out for a win, something like this is very interesting too. I mean, there's a lot of ways. I wouldn't sweat the short. I would sweat a variation like I showed you, where if black equalizes, it's not necessarily comfortable. You have very static pieces, okay? Black's pieces just don't come out that well. That's, just suffering trying to defend for hours. It's not a lot of fun. And usually very few people do it well. There was a guy, Isai Guliak, that used to do it. He would do it against grandmasters. He was an amazing defender. But he would sit there for 3 hours and, his head is, all red and he's working like crazy. I would have given up almost, the work he put in. But, I would say no, that's not. I would worry about the old variation with knight c3. I couldn't make this work objectively, so I didn't. But from a practicality standpoint, I'm sure knight c3 here is going to crush people. Okay, I mean, I can't imagine people having the answers here. Okay. Are you familiar with this?
Is that Vanderbilt where you played before?
Yeah, we're playing g4. Shirov used to play this against all the best players. Knight g2. The idea is we're going to play like h4 and knight to f4 and try to wreck his stuff. I mean, but it's super sharp. I've been tortured by Lev so many blitz games. There was one game I really destroyed him. I was playing white here, and he was just impressed. He's like, geez, you just lost like 10 games in a row, and then you can play like that? Like, he was really impressed with my play, and it was just lucky because it was the right variation. I mean, but it's not easy to find all the practical moves at the board. Then he went back to crushing me. Don't anybody think, I don't want anybody to think I ever roughed up Lev in speed chess. Didn't happen. In any case, I guess that's it for me, unless somebody has.
If you go back to the variation of the Caro-Kann with knight c6 on the fourth move, I just thought I saw something.
Knight c6 on the fourth move. With bishop f5?
No, with
c5?
c5.
Okay, because.
Okay, with that and then knight c6.
Okay.
I thought after he took.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking of when he is when the guy when black exchanged for the d pawn. I thought black could give a check, trade off the bit, which I don't know.
Wait, are you trying to solve it for white or black?
No, I thought I had it in my head. I was thinking of when white pushed up the c pawn.
Oh, like queen checks and regains the pawn?
Yeah, I was thinking of that.
Well, it's black's move here. Which move were you thinking black would make it? E6?
Black checking with the queen.
Black checking with the queen.
Oh, to pick up the c pawn?
Okay, so wait a minute. You realize c3 is a good move for white.
Yeah,
And then if this happens, see, this is actually a common theme in both the Caro and the French. When you get to do this kind of stuff, bishop e3 is coming. This is just a lottery position. When you have this, you're good. Okay.
So you can develop really quickly.
Yeah, and none of black's pieces look. I mean, this pawn is loose. This queen is attacked. I mean, all the pieces are flying out. In fact, this comes. You had comments?
So I was thinking queen d6, of course.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point.
And
But
then,
you could even just take this.
yeah, but I was
Let's say I'm really not hungry. I can't believe this is bad for white.
I just want to see how you would play if the guy did check you and then take up the pawn.
Yeah, he's not happy. He's like, I never wanted that pawn. I'll put it back. So,
He's got another question.
sure.
I was like, bishop e3.
Oh, after bishop e3?
Yeah, and queen b8. And I was like, bishop b5.
Okay, so putting the bishop on b5 in this position Okay, even though all these people did it, I don't like. Okay, generally in French structures, you know, if you never put the bishop on b5, it's not too big a mistake. Because, I mean, for instance, it's already, you know, if you just play, let's say, a couple moves, for instance, right? Okay, and now, let's say you play bishop here. Okay, do you see what we're having to do?
Actually, I think
Knight B to D2, because you just want to donate, right? Can't we just take this? Am I missing something?
I just figured that.
Oh, now the computer sees it. It took the computer a while. I'm like, am I wrong? Oh, geez, that looks silly. Yeah, no, this just win stuff, right?
Yeah, but I was like thinking development.
Well, no, the position is great for white. I mean, we're saying black isn't doing the right things. That's the whole point. You know, this is a common theme. In fact, in the French, this is a very common theme that I always like to credit the owner of this establishment, Ron Lorman. He was a very practical chess player and had some very interesting ideas about how to get an advantage. And this was one he really enjoyed this. Now here, you can't obviously win the D pawn because there's a little discovered check at the end. Everyone knows that. Okay, but a very common mistake. Oh my, look at this. 1,200 people, more than any other move, found the mistake. This is wrong, and he would play on this. This was his whole point. If you're going to play this silly move, look at the evaluation. It just went from 0 to 0.5. Why? Because we can just take this. Now, black's not even feeling bad about himself, but white just castles. And now what are we threatening? We're threatening b4 right away, and all of a sudden, black's pieces, in this French, black's going to have some issues. Like, for instance, if he doesn't, let's say he plays like knight to e7. What happens? Oh, how many bishops is he going to have in a minute? Only one, I think. Okay, I'm just saying, you know. So it's very hard for black to straighten him out. He has to play a weakening move. Like, you don't want to play weakening moves when you're behind and developing your kings in the center. That's kind of silly, right? That can't be good. So this is a very good position, I think, from a both objective and practical standpoint for white. And this is exactly the type of position, you know, Ron used to, you know, go after these positions where, you know, it's like risk-free. I'm just attacking for free, no sack or anything.
Oh, before the queen goes to b6, I was thinking of a different move. Before he goes to b6.
Okay, let me try to go back. Yeah, here we go.
What if black just took the d pawn and then threw in a check?
Well, so that's the thing. That's the correct line. Now you'll see 6.8 million people played queen b6 because it's the main line. Okay, and bishop d3 is the main response, and the main move was bishop here. Now, correctly, black has to play cd. Now, when he plays this, though, white has choices. First off, white can gambit and just play castles. That's like the new latest thing. But he could just take too. And then if black plays here, he could just castle again. And if takes, there's two choices. There's the newfangled, I think his name is Jim Pop. In any case, whatever his name is, he would play this way. And the idea is that, you know, after a move like this, okay, now there's like attacking ideas like queen h5 or just knight f3 even. This is all, you know, white gets interesting play is the concept. But, you know, it's a French. These are all different ways to play. There's all different gambits and things with this. I think if you know Gotham, he's got a whole repertoire where he recommends this. This is called the Milner Berry that you're gambiting, but he's got a revamped, like, newer version of it. I think he goes for the castles where
Hey,
after.
Cliff, I think James has a question.
Oh,
This plays, instead of, queen e6, queen c7 in this sort of position.
in this position, playing after knight f3, queen c7.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I would say in the French, Matt isn't here, is he? So Matt Slomsky is like, you know, he's the French guy. He really he understands the French concepts, and I players that have discussed the French who are very much better than me have all said the French, if you synthesize it down to, it's a fight for d4. Okay, whoever controls d4 is doing very well. Okay, so generally black tries to put more pressure on d4. Okay, and white tries to stabilize, because if white stabilizes the center, he's just going to have more space. So,
Like this sort of position, say white takes, black develops the bishop and drops it back.
oh no. See, white isn't playing DC unless he gets the chance to do it with advantage. If your queen's on b6, it's a much more daunting move. Okay. If your queen's on c7, it's not as an amazing move.
How would you like that?
Okay, so you know, I would say you could just develop, because black isn't threatening to win my d-pawn. I don't have to make any gambits or anything. In the other line, black was actually threatening to win something. There was a forced, you know, I had to respond to his threat. Here, he's not even making a threat. And if he ever takes CD, he's got his queen in a position where he's going to get hit with something in the C file too. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting the hook that I've got a last question here.
Instead of moving the bishop to d3, why doesn't he not, like when he moves the queen down, putting pressure on the pawn?
Okay,
why
so
doesn't he just move the bishop to e3?
okay, here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
But no, there was a player who he used to play. Let's see, it was, I believe it was here. He would play bishop to e3. Okay, I think it was called the Kaprizek variation. Oh, yeah, it has it right here. Kaprizek variation. Yeah, but I think this has kind of been refuted. It's not completely so. Yeah, it looks like kind of a passive square, but he was a strong grandmaster. If he's playing it, I'd still be scared of it, you know, even if it's supposed to be refuted. There's a lot of things people beat you with that are refuted. So, I mean, Hikaru eat bong clods, grandmasters, I mean, and they lose. So, you know, I don't think it's objectively King E2 is any good. I'm just saying, in any case. So, hey, thanks everyone for coming.